thoughts on where next for Storyland? Where do you see it progressing to? So obviously this is early stage R&D. You've been exploring the most important early bits. So what really is the story functionality that younger audiences are looking for? What works, what resonates? What do we fill the world with? But it can go any number of directions from here. So what's your plan, or what feels like it might be the next steps?
I think the next steps are to take the results of the research and publish that, and see what kind of interest we get. I'd like to talk to brand owners about it. I'd like to talk to organisations that have stories, so publishers, television studios, and those kinds of people, and talk to them about what they've thought about VR and their audience, and help them to maybe explore this as a tool for them to use. I think that the other thing that we could do with it is put it out into the world. So there are different routes that we can get it to market. So we can put it out into the world as a free to play trial, and get a significant number of people playing it and seeing what happens. The other thing that we're thinking about, we've got a concurrent product that we're working on called Curators, which is kind of like tourism, a cultural tourism tool. One of the things that we're wondering about with Curators is who's the audience for that. We know that grown-ups are interested in museums. I am. And we also know that families are really interested in museums. So what we're thinking about is what learnings we can take from this project to apply to that project, and possibly melding the two. So if you're running around the British Museum in virtual reality, could you make a story to share with your class afterwards about what you've learned? So could you make a story about the mummies? And I think it's really hard, because like the parent in me is, I want to show learning. Like, this activity was valuable, but actually, are the kids interested in that? Would they do it? So I think that's the next sort of step for that project.
That sounds very very fruitful, actually. And I was thinking, as you were saying that, cultural museums and cultural partners, they invest so much time in bringing the content of of their museum to life for younger audiences, which often involves play, story creation, mediated, activities of various sorts. Too often, unfortunately, in a separate room from the museum, where they're sort of creshed over into the corner. But that potential for storytelling in museum settings, virtual or otherwise, is huge. So
yeah, I think the thing for us with Curators is we've created a space that is a museum, but it doesn't have the same rules. So you can, as my children discovered when we did first testing, you can climb on the statues. And mummy might shout at you, but nobody's going to do anything about it. And you can touch the things and you can play with them. So it unlocks this whole other side to the experience, which is exciting.
really exciting. Oh, I love that. I'm going to widen the conversation to an immersive and interactive scene, storytelling scene in particular, because that's what we love most. What do you think? Are there any sort of really kind of big challenges impacting getting more people engaged and excited about interactive and immersive storytelling?
So I think it's that this discovery is the biggest hurdle. I think it's helping people to think about what kind of entertainment they want. So for the longest time we've talked about lean back and lean forward experiences. I'm really interested in lean forward experiences. If I was interested in lean back, I think I'd work in telly, I think I'd work in film. Lean back experiences. You tell me a story. I want to make lean forward experiences where I get to explore that story, but getting people to kind of go, do you know what? This evening, I'd like to be part of the story, and I think that we're not quite there yet.
That's a really good point about discoverability, because it strikes me that ability for content to come to us in the forms that we like is what we might be missing. You know, Oculus Home environment can offer us everything, and it can select stuff for us based on our preferences, of course, but it does offer everything. Whereas if I was only interested in, I don't know, let's pick a 360 films of extreme sports, it's not actually my preference, but that a home for me and a community around that would make me feel closer to the technology, I think. So yeah, discoverability must be one of those kind of key elements, and I suppose that will come with the types of content, whether they're games, films, other forms of interactive, even in just VR as a space. The more we get of it, the more we're going to have to learn how to offer the content to our personal preferences.
Yeah, and certain members of the market, we're getting into a bit of a monopoly or possibly a duopoly, and that's not good for content growth, because getting onto those marketplaces is challenging, and then even when you're onto those marketplaces, you are very much at the whims of the content market owners. And whilst ever you're in a position where one singular or two singular organisations hold the keys to that access, it's very difficult as a content maker. So we're going to go through a big pattern, as we did with the internet, where we go through people making content that never gets seen, and then 2 or 3 years later people point back and go, oh my god, did you see that? It's amazing. And there's some poor starving content maker going, why?
Emma, thank you so much for sharing all of that about your project Storyland. Wish you every success.
Thank you.